Here's a content marketing strategy that works for electrical contractors, and it works great for all kinds of contract services that are complex or otherwise unseen by your customers. Hi, this is Justin Hitt with Commercial Electrical Profits. Much of the work an inside electrical contractor does or a wiring specialist does is unseen by the finished customer. You're doing the work for a general contractor. The general contractor is doing it for a business owner or a developer. And when the building is done, they don't see the fine quality work you've done. Now, I've been fascinated by some of the pictures of that perfect wiring track where every wire is aligned. When I was doing IT services and hiring electrical folks, I needed to make sure the electrical wires were away from the low voltage wiring. I need to make sure that everything was nice and clean so that it could be maintained over time. In secured environments, I needed the conduit to be airtight. And it's beautiful to see electrical work done clean and safe. But the finished customer who's ultimately paying the bill never sees any of that stuff. Sure, they might appreciate a well-labeled breaker box, but ultimately, they don't see anything about what you're doing, what you're actually doing, and why the quality work that you do is better than the spaghetti mess that's stuck behind the walls in some places. I've been in data centers that we were migrating a data center where half the wiring is just incredibly beautiful. It's nice and clean, it's well labeled, and we've got power. We got the 3-phase power coming in on this side of the rack, and everything was consistent. And then you can almost see the point in time where people just didn't give a damn anymore, where they were throwing wires across the ceiling, and you're going through there and there's like a household wire 110 in there somewhere running through a spaghetti pile of network cables. The executive never sees that stuff. They don't know that's happening. Nobody knows what's going on above the ceiling tiles. Well, this is an excellent opportunity to both advocate good quality work and safety while giving your decision makers the reasons why they should do business with you over anybody else. Now, before you start creating content for the sake of creating content, what I'm talking about here is the practical demonstration. It's a certain type of content where you demonstrate what you're doing in a way that helps people understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Now, you're not showing them how to do it. This is not a DIY, but this is so a decision maker knows the importance of on-site inspections, because sometimes that general contractor just kind of get you through and then they're going to slap up some drywall. Well, if your customer gets to see that, maybe they could direct hire you the next time. Maybe they would come along for a service contract or some kind of maintenance and repair contract or change, add, move contract after the building goes online. Now, this is different than just catching a video and throwing it on Facebook, catching a video and, this is funny, throwing it on here, taking a before and after picture of a breaker box is okay, but it would be even better to do a short 5 to 10 minute segment about what you're going to do, a little bit of them doing it, and then afterwards, what you did. Now, this can be incorporated into your service work, and I'll explain how. I have many rental properties, and I've had rental properties that are out of state. Now, I don't have like a giant real estate portfolio, but for the properties that I had, I did regular maintenance. And I say had because this can be a pain in the ass. And I asked the contractors to please take a picture of what they're doing, what needs to be done, include that with their estimate. And then when they're done with the work, take another picture to show me the work's done and provide that with the invoice. Very simple it sounds. And by the way, that's a great strategy to help your affluent customers know that the quality of your work is worth the referral, to help your small business customers to know what's going on, but to also collect the information that you need in order to do a demonstration of here's what not to do, and here's how we do it, and here's why we do it that way. And now this is a much better edit because you don't have to worry about waiting for an upload. You don't have to worry about logging in and getting distracted. You simply clip out the pictures. And here's what I recommend for many of my clients is you have the company camera, the company phone, the company whatever. You take some pictures, you take some videos, you bring the phone back and you hand it to your media person. You hand it to your marketing coordinator. You hand it to somebody who's going to take all those videos off and they're going to collect the materials and then assemble them and then put it online. Now, this is very important because you're assembling these materials in such a way to demonstrate not only that you can do the work, but to help your customers understand why you should do the work over anybody else. And this is very powerful because your customers do not know how to choose electrical services. They simply don't. They don't know about that a lot of electrical contractors can do low voltage wiring. So now they end up hiring a specialist network contractor as well as an electrical contractor, as well as a specialist lighting company, when your company might be able to do all those things with a relative level of proficiency, but ultimately in a bundle that was a higher ticket item for you, but ultimately a better value for the customer. So this is just one example. There are many ways to create content, including interviewing your customers and taking their success stories and turning it into emotional copy that attracts new buyers. It could be your community work. But the key I want you to take away here is that it's not just videotaping something and throwing it online. It's not just a few tweets here and there. It's a coordinated marketing effort because you're not in the business of creating content. I'm not in the business of creating content. We're in the business of creating customers, solving problems for customers, delivering value to them so that they get the results that they deserve. Now, here's very important. A lot of folks are talking about content marketing because they have tools and software and services to create content for you. But ultimately, having a bunch of content on a website or in your office is just like those old boxes of brochures you've got in the closet. Now, I know you've got old boxes of brochures in the closet, and I know you've got old letterhead that nobody's ever seen, and you've got a lot of waste in motion, even content on your website nobody's ever seen. To solve that problem is not more content. And so this is the last tip I want to leave you with. Very often, any of the content you already have can be recycled. I have a program about recycling your marketing, and I'll give you this tip from the program. If you're going to do a podcast, if you're going to do a video, if you're going to do anything to promote your business, and you must promote your business to get beyond that $1 million level, to get to 10 million, to get to 20 million, it's not about just delegating it to somebody and have them put something up. You want every piece of content to be tracked as if it's a marketing campaign, as if it's a marketing piece in a campaign. Understand this, because I know you're good with electricity, but you might not be good with these concepts. If you were to hire a salesperson and bring them into your office, train them on your products and services, and then ask them to go get you customers, and all they did was sit around the office and drink coffee, what would you do? If you hired somebody and had a beautiful brochure produced, and everybody loves the brochure, and it has the correct phone number, it has your street address and location, and it even has a little safety blurb on the back of it, so customers might want to keep it around for safety information, and that keeps your company in front of them. And you have all these printed up. Maybe you have 5,000 of them printed up, and they're nice boxes. They show up at your office, and you simply put them on a shelf in the warehouse. See, that's what most people do when they're doing content marketing or they're doing any kind of marketing. They're not treating it as a exercise that gets customers. They're treating it as kind of a one-off thing. It feels like you did something. Now, the vendors in the field who sell marketing services, they want you to feel like you did something by selling you the brochure. The guy who designed your brochure and got it printed for you and everything, they made their money. That letter you sent out last week that was not very effective, but was meant to retain more customers or to get referrals, and you never heard from anybody, well, you just blame direct mail. The truth of it is you may have sent out crap. So what we do to know what works and what doesn't work is we measure every letter, every email, every web page, everything that you put out there. Now, my office, we help clients set up their Google Analytics and all the dashboards to monitor this stuff. It is a little more complex today. But ultimately, just because it's easy to create content doesn't mean it's easy for content to create customers. If your focus is only on the customer and your focus is on getting more customers and getting that relationship with your customer built up, then what you'll often discover is there's probably 3 or 5 things that your company can do on a consistent basis that will bring in the business that you need. Just maybe 3 or 5 things. Maybe it's a couple types of customer that you work with. My specialty is to help electrical contractors reach more affluent customers and more businesses that control real estate. Because very often in a retail business, you might have 3 tenants in the course of 5 years, and each of those tenants might have different lighting and different floor layouts and different wiring configurations. And so now you've got one customer, which is the building company, but you've got multiple sales events over the period of time because you're in and out of their company doing change ads, removes, build outs, and setups. You may be in a situation where you're working with data centers, for example, and you're partnered with a wiring contractor who does specialized Cisco equipment, but they don't actually run all the cables. When I was doing IT services, I didn't actually run network cables myself. I didn't have people on my team to run network cables, and I certainly didn't run the electrical. But I had subcontractors who went out and did this work. I had partnership agreements that would get out and get that work done. And it worked very well for everybody involved. Your job is to find those relationships, establish and develop those relationships. Now, if content helps you, that's great. Some content will help you better than others by treating each piece of content as a marketing effort, I've sent something out into the world, how many people responded? Of those people who responded, how many became customers, and simply tracking it on a spreadsheet. And yes, we have sophisticated tools here, but we can show you how to do it just on a spreadsheet to get started. If you do that, then you can do more of what works and less of what doesn't, and you'll know the difference between the two. You can choose and find marketing campaigns that'll be your controls. So for example, you may have 2 or 3 referral sources that are awesome, but you only got 2 or 3 of those. And if you know what kind of demographic they're in, maybe it's a trade association, association of general contractors, maybe that's been a good source of business, but it's just one trade organization. Well, what if you could find 2? What if you had similar marketing efforts that you could cookie cutter into different regional areas around you and start producing better results? I work with many private clients who we form business alliances or joint partnerships to do cooperative marketing, where non-competitive electrical contractors in different states are actually using my organization to send out their lead generation pieces and to manage their customer newsletters. And I don't do all this myself. I set them up with the right contractors and such. But ultimately, now they're able to test over 2 independent markets, demographic changes, psychographic changes, types of businesses and categories, and they're able to know more about their marketing without extending their budget. Whatever it is, understand it's just not about creating content. You need the content to solve a problem for your prospect, and it solves the problem in a way that prospect raises their hand and gets involved with what it is that you have to offer. When you're connecting with customers or you already have content, you need to put it in front of people instead of sitting around waiting for search engines and waiting for stuff to show up. And that could be pay-per-click, but it also could be a postcard. It could be something in your newsletter. It could be a mention in the local newspaper. It could be a lot of different things. You need to know what things work for you. Now, we can help you with some of this, and I am available, subject to availability, the paid consultations. That's one way. But you can simply just ask your questions when you visit www.commercialelectricalprofits.com. I'm Justin Hitt, and I want to remind you that yes, you can transform business relationships into profits. It goes by a systematic approach to how you communicate with customers. The language you use, the type of materials that you send, when you send them, what channel you send them on. All these things are easy to track. And when you start tracking them, this whole thing called content marketing goes away and becomes customer acquisition. And the more customers that you create and keep for your business, the more profitable customers that you attract, the greater your organization is going to grow. We've got all kinds of resources out at Copyright. We got all kinds of resources on all kinds of things out at the Commercial Electrical Profits website. But most importantly, I want to hear your questions and your comments and your stories. And by the way, the content doesn't even need to be that fancy. I hope you've learned something today. I'm looking forward to hearing about your successes. Thanks for listening.